Based in Switzerland, QualySense is an agritech company that is noted for their energy-efficient bean and grain sorting technology. It has been proved to be more accurate and reliable than traditional manual sorting methods. Francesco Dell'Endice founded QualySense in 2010 and has been serving as the CEO ever since. He came to us on the Bright Founders Talk to speak about his expertise in the agriculture technology sector. For those interested in the agritech industry, there are a number of key takeaways from this episode of the podcast. Enjoy watching! Hi everyone and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at TAMI. TAMI is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Thank you guys that you are here today and watch our new episode of Bright Founders Talk podcast. It's time to introduce our today's guest. It's Francesco Dell'Endice, who is founder and CEO at QualySense. Hello, Francesco. How are you?
Hi, Alexandra. All good here. How are you doing?
We are good too, thank you. Usually I like to start a discussion from a non-formal topic just to get to know you better as an ordinary person, but not only as entrepreneur. So today is the 17th of January, the beginning of the year, and I think that most people are still in the period of making New Year's resolutions, and I consider that some tips on how to keep them would be helpful. So could you please share with us advice on how to manage everything? Maybe you have some secrets.
All right, so very tough questions to start with, but I think that one of the probably tip I would like to give is to really try to find the time to focus in what you are good at. Because today we have so many inputs coming from the internet that makes our brain very foggy. And you get easily distracted. And so I always recommend, I promised myself, this is maybe one of my 2023 resolution, to really focus on less things, but in a better way. So maybe getting more data, more information about specific topics, so then I could, improve myself. And you never stop improving yourself. So personal growth, it's something that we should always feed and nurture, I think, for the entire life. So that's maybe my tip to start with.
Okay, thank you. You've already mentioned one of your personal resolution for this year, and so maybe you will share with us more.
At the moment, I say my life is very busy with so many different aspects, and I already think that focusing on some little goals is always better than having so many. But other than that, maybe the first one was more a resolution related to my, let's say, personal growth. Maybe from a business perspective, I think my resolution goes in the direction of delegating more to other colleagues, to also give colleagues actually opportunities to also grow personally and also professionally. So like that, I cover the inner sphere and the outer sphere. And I do think that the two resolutions, let's call them this way, are actually very connected, because if I find time to focus more on my things, means that I'm not able to follow all the rest as I was before. And therefore, you need some nice workmates that would take over that from you.
Let's keep our fingers crossed with all of these plans for the next year. Coming back to business, you are founder and CEO of QualySense. You have invented the QSorter technology, a sophisticated high-speed single kernel robot, which measures the compositional and physical quality of each seed or grain at a very high speed and sorts. I watched your promo video where you explain and show how it works actually. It looks like a revolution in the industry. So how did you actually come up with the idea?
So I have a background in aerospace engineering and always been working on projects where from satellites we could measure quality parameters on Earth. So we would, screen the surface of a lake, of a forest, of a field, and detect parameters that could help decision makers establishing new policies for agriculture or for maybe climate change management and things like that. So towards the end of my PhD, so I thought about that I needed something more faster in the sense of implementation into the everyday's life and something that maybe a lot of people could benefit from. So with my technical know-how, I thought I'm able to transform this into something that again goes into the real life tomorrow. Let's say this way: tomorrow is a big word, but faster. And with that, let's say, simply said, we could maybe move the same technology that is now used in space at the ground level, at Earth level, let's say 0 meters above sea level, and look into the products of those fields, in particular the grains, the seed, and the beans. Now, to elaborate also on what you said before about the technology. So the technology itself, as in any other business, is not really changing the world. What changed the world is the purpose for which that technology has been built for. And at QualySense, we have the, let's say, the mission of really changing the way quality is measured and understood in the food agri industry. So there are a lot of pitfalls and loopholes in the current system that don't allow us to really benefit from what we produce, and we do have to be very careful about this and mindful because we do waste a lot. We now energy is becoming very expensive. There are a lot of corruption schemes when it comes to trades. There is ultimately the need of meeting more and more the consumer demands for maybe the high protein foods, the high fiber foods. And I do think that we do have resources in the world. We just have to learn to use them better. So with QualySense and these products, we are trying to build a new language that is supported, a new quality language supported by robotics technology and cloud technology. So you measure in a very innovative way and precise way what you deal with the cloud. You share with colleagues and stakeholders. And if you have big problems, then we have another piece of technology that is a large scale sorter that allows you to remove the problems and to recover something that, for example, would be ending up in a garbage bin. So there is a lot of value creation, but at the same time, you recover soil production, land production, you save CO2, and so on and so on. So that's a little bit, in a nutshell, what we are working for at QualySense.
Okay, so you've given us a lot of details already, and my question is, your solution, QSorter, is it universal for all seeds and grains, or you have different, for example, software, and it is unique for every product?
Right. So we probably have to distinguish between 2, if not 3 pieces of software. So there is one part, which is the control software. That is the one that, puts together all the mechanical sensing and electrical equipment and parts. So they move as a whole in a very synchronized way. So that, I think, is the first part. The second part is about the algorithms that we built to measure something. So we have to correlate the signal that comes from our sensors to let's say old school laboratory measurements. So we can build an algorithm that we also call a calibration that tells you that in that specific seed, for example, there is 41% of oil content, or 12% of protein, or 2% of caffeine. So this is the second part. And then we have the third part that is more towards the user, which is the, let's say, the graphical user interface, the user experience, and the cloud. So ultimately, the first and the last, in a way, they are standard, and we can deploy the same pieces of software no matter which crop we have to deal with, while the algorithms are somehow really the key competence that we do have, and we have to develop that for any crop and any problem that we have to try to solve.
Are you still deeply involved in technical processes in your company, or now you are more on the business side?
Well, I definitely, for a force of event, for a reason, as I say, for a number of reasons, I had to obviously take care more about the business and the sales. But having said that, I think that people need my competence, especially on the customer side, to understand what we really can do and what we cannot do and which benefits we produce. So that means literally that I'm continuously bringing together the customer and our R&D to facilitate the dialogue on the requirements. So in this way, I can say that I'm still very much involved in the development, but more in terms of clarifying requirements. And I'm not necessarily, let's say, moving screwdrivers and keys, but I think, and this is maybe a tip for also other entrepreneurs that are listening, that requirements is everything, because there is always this kind of mismatch between what the customer wants and what your R&D does. So one of the issue that I found out, I mean, we had, and actually many other tech companies have, that they believe that, as I said earlier, technology solves all the problem, and then it's the customer that needs to understand how to use the technology. I believe that this is not right. I believe that the technology is just a support function to the customer benefiting from an invention and innovation. So clarifying the expectations is very important. And when I say that, means maybe defining right away what is the minimum valuable product that you need to develop to go to the market. Because with that, you go faster to the market, you save money, you start to bring the customer on board, and then you will always have chance to sell them more, maybe a new feature, a new algorithm, a new graphical user interface, but you do that later.
And did you have actually significant struggles with creation of your MVP at that time?
In a way, yes, because we created a new space for quality inspection that was not existing before. So we, in some cases, this is called like a blue ocean type of market. So people don't think there is a need for something until you show them that they have to probably change a process or something. So initially, it has been very hard to convince customers that this is something that would have to be used on a daily basis. So there were always discussions, remarks that, yeah, maybe not, maybe yes, maybe not, maybe yes. But then it's interesting because then you start finally to find these early adopters. And even if skeptical, they start working with you. And then after a while, they say, oh, Jesus, now I really I understand what I can use this product for. And that is fantastic, because then that starts creating that chain reaction and that allows to expand your market. So people go out, they talk about you, well, about your products more than about you. And then, the word of mouth goes forward, and then your sale go accordingly, right?
And what was your biggest challenge, we can say, from both sides, from technical and from business side?
So from a technical perspective, I mean, we have built and we are building very complex pieces of products. So the first device, that is the one on my left, no, sorry, the one here, the smaller piece of the technology, took us 5 years to get there, just to develop it from a technical, let's say an engineering point of view.
Mhm.
And then after you've done that, it takes you also a lot of time to get into the market, because it's a very expensive piece of technology and people don't buy it like that. You know, you need to coach them, educate them. So this is always, I think, a process that you have to be very mindful when building a company that has this type of, you know, complexity. So with software, probably the lifetime of the go-to-market is much faster. With a hardware company, it takes you several years to really, you know, establish yourself as a solution provider that is trusted in the industry. So that's maybe technically the issue. And business, in a way, I mean, I also cover that, because today we tend to associate the business with the sales part, but ultimately the two processes, they go in parallel. And this is, again, maybe another tip. There are companies that they completely neglect the customer to start with, and then they focus on the tech. And why? Because they are afraid of showing like a prototype solution to a customer. They think, okay, it must be really like rock solid, whatever this definition means. I love the approach of bringing the customer at the very early stage of the process and building things together. We have a beautiful project that we actually completed about 6 months ago. So in 2019, we started to work with Starbucks, Nespresso, and other companies, just with the idea that we wanted to do something together. And these people have accepted that challenge, and they even contributed financially to the development, which is, again, great for an entrepreneur, because you don't have to borrow money from an investor or a bank, but, you know, the customer pays for this, maybe under certain conditions. For example, you say, I know, the first X devices that you buy, we sell them at a discount, but still it helps a lot. And besides the money, it really helps you shaping that product around the customer. So with this approach, you can maybe gain some time in your market penetration strategy.
I saw on LinkedIn that your company consists of about 30 people. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. I think between internal, and we have different outsourcing partners that they work with us. I mean, we love partnerships when they make sense, obviously. And yeah, it's about that size.
And honestly, I was like surprised because of such a low number of people in your company, because your solution seems to be very complicated. And I'm curious, do you have some secrets on how to find the right team members and how actually build a skilled team?
So you mentioned, maybe when you asked me before about the challenges, I will say that people is always the challenge number one in all the directions, starting internally with your colleagues to any other stakeholder. Could be a customer, could be an investor. So I like the idea that you should be working with people that you like to work with. Now, to like to work with, that doesn't mean that you know, they have to think like you or something, but they have to leave a mission and a culture. So a culture for me, so the mission, we talked about it before, you know, build a new quality language. But a culture is like how the two of us will interact now in the office. So we may have different opinions, different views, but still we can have a dialogue and talk and say, hey, Alexandra, how do you think about that? I think differently. You know, we try to find a common ground. And this brings me to the point of the question that you have, that I'm personally trying to be very, very picky with who do I bring on board. And skills, let's say, generally you find skills. There are always people with skills out there, but the people that have the right drive and motivation and interfacing type of skills that match your profile are probably rare. So I prefer to be short in resources rather than just, you know, piling up a new colleague or more colleagues because you need, though, because then you will realize especially for a young company with not so many people like ours. If you bring the wrong person, that person becomes poison, and that poison spreads so fast that you won't imagine how many consequences will trigger, and then you have to handle those consequences. And in the field where we operate, a wrong person means a wrong investment in all the directions. So time, money, and stomach aches for whatever discussions or misunderstandings you might have with that team member.
What are your vectors of development for the next 2 years, for example?
So again, I'm connecting once more to the mission. So establishing like a new quality language. So one of the key activities for us is to really succeed in convincing large companies to adopt our technology across all their sites, because strategically that would mean that all the other stakeholders talking to them for buying, selling, trading, storing, whatever, they will need to adapt to that language, which means in turn that they would have probably to knock to our door to get the same piece of equipment. So this is maybe one of the key activities where we would like to really push in a smart way, so that we can scale up the business. Yeah, maybe that's, I think, the key goal for the next couple of years, probably.
You've probably learned many lessons as entrepreneur during your entrepreneurial path. What's better to do earlier, what's better to do later. And could you please give advice for beginners in their entrepreneur stories?
I'm repeating the concept of mission a number of times, and therefore I would like to start with this. And it seems like of little value at the very beginning when you are just like the two of us starting a company. But I think it's really like of high importance to have that sentence clarified in your head, because it's that mantra that would be motivating whoever talks to you. So from your team member to the customer. So that's, I think, bullet number one, the mission. Bullet number two, bring on board the right people at the right time. And the right people means also, in particular, the guys that fit your culture. So I want to work with someone that, let's say, I can spend a day with, and maybe not only a day, because you work together at least 5 days a week, right? And you want to have discussions and everything, but at the end of the day, you want to go back home and enjoy the time with your family, boyfriend, girlfriend, going out and not having, stomach aches. So you want to have a good reason. Okay, I'm going to work today. I'm happy. I don't want to stand up and have I'd rather sleep 3 hours more. So that's probably the tip number two. Tip number three, I also mentioned it. It's about bringing the customer on board as fast as possible. So don't be shameful of a device that loses a piece when somebody pushes the button. So take the risk of doing that. Yes, I mean, epic failures happen to everyone. They also happen to us, but it's better to do that, to start getting visibility in the marketplace, and so people can associate your technology and products to something, because that takes really a lot of time to build up a brand, right? So I would say these are maybe my top 3 tips. There are so many details, but ultimately, maybe in whatever you do, preparation always pays off. And preparation is not for everyone. It's usually considered like a tedious topic, and sometimes we just love to jump into the problem when maybe we should spend a second thinking before about what to do. And then possibly you're going to see that the development of whatever project is going to be much faster than what you expect, or you expected, sorry.
Francesco, thank you for this motivational boost and thank you for sharing your story. Actually, it was my last question, and I wish you all the best with all of your initiatives in your company.
So thank you, Alexandra, for the time today, and I wish everyone good luck in their entrepreneurial journeys.